Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Ty, and today we are going to be tackling a subject that nobody on the internet talks about, and some bands that nobody talks about, nobody has any opinions on, nobody has any controversial takes or hot takes on. We're going to be talking about the Big Four, and specifically, we're going to be talking about the classic albums of the Big Four and ranking them. So I want to talk about the first 5 albums of each of the Big Four, so Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, and each of those bands' first 5 records. I feel like that's a pretty good delineation point for basically all these bands. They have a clear, like, early era, and then they get commercial, and then they have, like, a 5th record that's kind of controversial, like almost every band. So super interesting how they all followed the kind of the same trajectory. But most of these are going to be considered classic albums. I like all these albums in their own right. Now, I shouldn't have to say this, but obviously this is my opinion. You are free to sound off in the comments below what your opinions are about these records. Obviously, this is just my opinion. It's a list, people. It's a ranking. This is how this stuff goes. And I wanted to rank them against each other because we got some absolute classics of the genre just within these bands, and they all earned their title of being in that so-called Big Four. So I wanted to tackle just those classic albums. This video is going to be long enough, so I didn't want to do the whole discographies. I felt like the first 5 was a very good delineation mark, and kind of like I said, all the bands have a very similar trajectory. So yeah, I got my tier ranking all set up here. We're going to go 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10, 11 through 15, and 16 through 20. So I got 20 albums to go through. Should be exciting. There's going to be some controversial takes in here. Like I said, sound off in the comments below. Let me know your rankings. Let me know your favorite bands out of the Big Four. Let me know your favorite records that these bands have ever released. And again, I like all these albums, but the nature of a ranking is you have to rank them against each other. That's the fun. It would be no fun to put all these in the top tier. It would be pointless. What's the point? And everybody freaks out. Oh, you put this album in the great tier. That means you hate it. No, that means I think it's great. That's exactly what that means. It means it's great. Doesn't mean I hate it. It means that it's great. Just because it didn't make it into the phenomenal tier doesn't mean that it's awful. Like, not everything can go into the top tier, people. Like, that's the point of rankings. Like, I love internet comments that go, well, you put Number of the Beast in great album and not legendary album, so you must hate that album. Yep, that's exactly what that means. You're doing really well for yourself. Keep going. But anyways, rant over. I'm not going to put these letter grades on them. We're going to rank them. So 1 through 20. Let's start at the bottom. Let's start with Anthrax. And let's start with this album, State of Euphoria. And again, I'll order these as I put them in there, but it's going to be in the 16 through 20. Comes in at number 20, released in 1988. This is kind of a mid album, it's stuffed between 2 really great albums. So I think it kind of suffers for that. Kind of no fault of its own, but it's just what it is. Like, I feel like the band's failing to meet their own expectations here. I feel like they're fatigued. That's what it comes off in the music. The album has a very thin production, which a lot of the Anthrax albums have a very thin production. It's a bridge album, I feel. And it's honestly kind of full of unfinished ideas to me. But there are some highlights. Joey sounds good. He sticks to more of his mid-range on this album, but he sounds good throughout it. Charlie and Frankie are their typical greatness and have their typical Anthrax gallops throughout, with Charlie particularly shining. I mean, Charlie Benante is an excellent drummer. He shines on almost every Anthrax record. Be All End All, great opener. Great live track, too. Honestly, the cover, Antisocial, the Trust cover, that's probably the most Anthraxy song on this album, which is crazy to me. But yeah, the best description to me is it's inconsistent and a tad boring at times. But you could see what the band wanted to do. They just weren't there yet. Standouts for me, Be All End All, Antisocial, Who Cares Wins, and Finale. So some decent, solid tracks. Not an awful album, but it's got something's got to come in at the bottom. So number 19, the only one that I don't own physically, I just never have picked up a copy of this. It's Fistful of Metal, 1984, Anthrax's debut. That's going to come in at number 19. Just rank it a little bit above State of Euphoria. I like it just a tad bit more. It's probably the heaviest Anthrax album in terms of sound, I would say. And I really dig the production on this. It might be the best, my favorite Anthrax production that they did. It's got some balls to it. It's a lot of Anthrax albums don't. Yeah, Neil Turbin, pretty solid on the album. I can't fault him. I do prefer Joey Belladonna, but Neil can hit some crazy highs. And he almost has like a Paul Stanley vibe from Kiss. With his normal singing voice, which kind of is cool. It definitely stands out in the catalog, obviously. Kind of a lost record. Like the band barely acknowledges it. They don't play a ton of songs live from it. But it's a solid debut. Unfortunately, it gets overshadowed by the rest of the Big Four debuts that are much, much better than this. There's a ton of Iron Maiden influence on this as well. Standouts for me are Death Rider, Metal Thrashing Mad, and Anthrax. Pretty cool song there. Alrighty, so let's keep going. I'm gonna sense a theme here. I guess I'll be nice soon. But Anthrax, Persistence of Time from 1990. Anthrax tries to keep up with Metallica and Megadeth here in the 90s, and they do a decent job of it. Let's Get Long and proggy like And Justice for All, and really political, sort of like Megadeth. It's kind of the redheaded stepchild of the classic Anthrax albums. It's darker in tone and lyrical content. It's a stark contrast from Spreading the Disease among the living. I applaud them for branching out. I truly do. It's a hard thing to do, but I feel that Anthrax is at their very best when they are writing heavy songs about nerdy topics. That's what I enjoy. I do like the production on this quite a bit. It's got some pretty thick guitar tones, which I like. The band technically is really on fire. Like, the album is full of great riffs, and Joey understood the assignment with coming off with some more serious vibes on the vocals, I should say. Ultimately, I think it's an album that a little self-editing would have went a long, long way and benefited it greatly. You just remove a couple songs, like probably Gridlock, maybe, kind of forgettable, or trim just a bit of the fat, and this could be one of the greatest Anthrax albums ever. Honestly, it's a really solid album. It's just bloated. All the vintage Anthrax tropes are still on here, though, so there's something to sink your teeth into if you dig that sound. It just depends on which flavor you prefer, and I prefer the more fun, like comic book influence, skateboarding, that type of flavor. Standouts, Blood, really good song. Keep It in the Family, really dig that one. In My World, Belly of the Beast, Got the Time. Got the Time's a great cover. It doesn't really fit on here, honestly. It doesn't really fit the theme of the album because it's a fast-paced, kind of more fun song, but really, really good song nonetheless. They do a good job at covers generally, so I will give them props for that. All right, we're still picking on them. I'm sorry. This one might be the first really controversial one. I know people love this album, but Spreading the Disease comes in at number 17. Something Had to Do It, from 1985. And this kind of feels like the start of Anthrax proper. You get Joey Belladonna in the band, the lyrical concepts, the thrashing, his vocals, Joey's vocals. Those are all things that Anthrax would become known for, famous for. My biggest gripe against this album is the production. Like, even this release, which is the 30th anniversary release, remastered, I dislike it. It sounds muddy. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of thin at times. Joey is super high in the mix, which sounds great, but then the rest of the band's just kind of muddied together. But the songwriting, the playing, the vocals are way, way, way big improvements over the debut. But it honestly feels like the band is kind of completely starting over. This feels like a debut because it feels totally different than the first Anthrax album. Frankie Bello is also coming in, and he's more than up to the task of replacing Dan Leiker, and he's Dan Lilker, and Frankie's very good. Frankie is Anthrax, so you got to kind of get the classic lineup here. Charlie shines again on the drums. He's one of the more interesting aspects of these early Anthrax albums, his playing, I should say. And yeah, like it's kind of suffers from some things that other bands in the Big Four do. Like if this is the band's debut, it's legendary. It'd be a standout debut, and it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. So it's just a weird album for me. It's a good album. It's a good bridge album to get from the debut to where they wanted to go to something much better. Standouts for me, AIR, really, really good track. Madhouse, obviously. The Enemy, really dig that one. Similar kind of DNA to Indians. You can kind of see where they were going with that one. And Medusa, just a classic tune. So yeah. Spreading the Disease comes in at number 17. All right, let's stop picking on Anthrax for a little bit. I apologize. Also in 1985, we had this band release Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. 1985, obviously Megadeth's debut. This is Dave's revenge tour. Like, this is where it started. And despite everything going against this record, like the lack of time, money, and the drugs that they were doing when they recorded this, like Killing Is My Business comes off as a great introduction to Megadeth for sure. Like a lot of the Megadeth trademarks can be traced directly back to the start of this album. The production on the original is not good, but I think all the remasters have really helped it out a bit. The first 4 tracks and then Looking Down the Cross and Mechanics do all the heavy lifting here. So like Rattlehead, The Skull Beneath the Skin, the title track, Last Rites, Love to Death. And then you get the Looking Down the Cross and Mechanics. Really, really like a solid 6-track run there. Then you get the cover of These Boots, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I kind of dig it. It's fun for what it is. What's the track? Chosen Ones. I think that one's kind of a little bit of a throwaway. But anyway, yeah, standouts for me are the tracks I just mentioned. It comes in at number 16 on the list. So let's find it here. Where you at? There it is. It's got this cover. It's funny. This cover is different than that cover. And then there's also the original cover. But yeah, this is a remaster from what? 2020 or something? 2018. So we got a bunch of live tracks on here, which are cool. Live in 86, demos live in 87, live 1990. That's cool. So yeah, some cool stuff on this one. If you could seek this out, you get some cool bonus tracks on here. But yeah, good album. Not my favorite Megadeth album. Obviously, we'll talk about those much later. But a solid debut from the band. All right, next up. Might be surprised it's a little high. I'm a defender of this album. Black Album, 1991. None more black right there. The most popular heavy metal album of all time. And it comes with a lot of baggage. It comes in at number 15 here. And I understand, like, if you were a fan of Metallica and you loved the first 4 albums and then your sister started playing this and you're like, holy shit, I can't listen to this band anymore. Luckily, I have the benefit of hindsight of almost all of this shit. So I was introduced to the band when all their classic stuff was already out. So I could discover it all at once. So there wasn't like a shock factor, like, oh my gosh, they changed the sound so much. So I never really had to worry about jock dudes listening to it or my sister or what have you. They will forever be one of the biggest bands on the planet, and I never knew them as anything other than Metallica, one of the biggest bands on the planet. I honestly think, too, that if this album and the band hadn't blown up to the massive proportions that it did, that many fans would look back on this album more fondly. But that's not the world that we live in, unfortunately. I am a Black Album defender, like I said. The production on it, the drum sound, some of the best of the band's career. The album is full of meaty riffs and some great solos by Kirk Hammett. The bass is also very audible, unlike the previous album. What a concept that is. And although some of the tracks are completely played out, like you never need to hear Enter Sandman or Nothing Else Matters ever again, I still enjoy listening to this album. in its entirety. It takes me back to simpler days. Yes, it's simple. It's a clean production and it's arena ready. But honestly, though, I applaud the band for taking a massive leap into the unknown. Because if this album didn't work out, the band probably could have been screwed. It would have been hard to go back and just be like, okay, let's just write Master of Puppets 2, which is hard. They had one of the greatest runs ever, the first 4 albums. So, like, what are you going to do? You're going to get faster? You're going to get more proggy? You're just going to keep doing the same thing again? So yes, it's a sell-out album, but it honestly could have went completely the wrong way, because if the jocks and your sister didn't like it, they would have never gained them, and they would have lost you. So it would have been hard to win those fans back. So I applaud the band for this, and I still dig the record. Sad But True is a great song. Don't Tread on Me, Of Wolf and Man, The God That Failed. The God That Failed is probably my favorite track on the album for sure. But yeah, Black Album comes in at number 15, released in 1991. Let's go on a little Metallica run. Might be controversial here. I used to love this record a lot more, but over the years, I've tired of it. Let's go with Justice for All from 1988. Comes in at number 14 on the list, right above Black Album. They go prog on this, and they completely forget that they hired a bass player. Justice for All isn't art in self-sabotage. This is a great album. It's a great album. Could be absolutely amazing, though, if they wanted bass. If they just wanted to have bass on there. And the production on this album ruins it for me. I hate to be that guy, but it does. The fan remixes, though, entirely prove my point. If you look out for the fan remixes where they add the bass back in and stuff like that, totally changes this. The drums are super thin. It makes this album have almost no low end because there's no bass also, which I hate. However, the album is still filled with some absolutely stellar songs, obviously. The lyrical content, too, has taken a massive step forward since the debut of the band and onward and so forth. Blackened is a great Metallica opener, awesome track. But then we kind of get into my other main gripe. Like, some songs are just too long, and Metallica suffers from that now. But Metallica, 10-minute tracks. I don't know, man, cut that down to 7. Just trim it a little bit. Not many bands have the chops to write 10-minute interesting tracks, at least to me anyway. It's not a knock, man. It's just the truth. It really is just the truth. You fix the production, you trim some of the fat, you add back the bass, and this rivals Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets easily. Instead, it's a glorious case to me of what could have been. It's still one of the band's masterpieces, though. It's still an awesome album. You got to rank it. So here we are. And I'm a little harder on this because I used to love and adore this album, and I'm just burnt out on it. And I kind of see the faults in it. One is an absolute great song. Metallica are amazing at writing epic ballads, for sure. Standouts, Blackened, one, obviously, Harvester of Sorrow. Harvester of Sorrow is kind of a sign of things to come that would be on Black Album, for sure. A lot of people say, I didn't hear it. I totally out of the window. You listen to Harvester of Sorrow and okay, I see a lot of calling cards that were coming. Dyer's Eve, another great track. It's just a little long. I love this album. It's one of the first albums I ever was truly exposed to as far as Metallica. So my uncle owned this cassette, and I remember seeing the album cover and being like, what the heck is this album cover? So yeah, one of the foundational albums for me. I still enjoy it. But something's got to fill the 14th slot, so better one than that. Let's go with another weird album that kind of I know it gets loved, but it also kind of gets hated too. Let's go with 1988 as well. So Far, So Good, So What by Megadeth. It's kind of, suffers from State of Euphoria. It's stuffed between two absolute classics, like that album is. And So Far, So Good, So What is just a drug-fueled roller coaster, and that sounds like that. It's inconsistent as hell when compared to the other classic Megadeth albums. The absence of Chris Poland and Gar is immediately apparent. The playing is not as good as the first two albums. Also, the production has taken a complete 180. P-Cells really up the production from the debut, and then it's like, we're just going to go completely backwards. It's interesting. Mary Jane and In My Darkest Hour are almost the same song. Like the riff gets repeated a lot, and I dig both of them, but it's a recycled riff within the song, and I don't know if they did that on purpose. They probably did that on purpose, like a callback, but it's just kind of always sticks out to me when I'm listening to this album all the way through. Yeah, you know, also too, Megadeth is easily the worst big four man when it comes to cover tunes. Anarchy in the UK fits them a little bit more than Nancy Sinatra. It's not awful, but it's just like, why? It's super strange. So Anthrax is pretty good at it. Megadeth is not. If this was the debut for Megadeth, again, it would be absolutely classic. But it's a giant step back from where they went with Pete Sells, at least to me. The only reason I think I rank it higher than the debut is because even drugged out Dave is still good. He's still good at writing riffs and solos, and In My Darkest Hour, Hook and Mouth, stone cold classic songs too. So that lends a lot of help to this record. But yeah, also too, In My Darkest Hour is his very best vocal performance on this album. Honestly, other shit just kind of seems uninspired on it. Their head was not in it when they were making this album. They were into extracurriculars. So Dave Jr. too is just kind of there. It's not the greatest Ellefson record. The new additions to the lineup add very little. But I dig it for what it is, even the worst Megadeth records. This definitely is the worst, but you know what I mean. The Megadeth records that I like the least, I can always find fun things about them. Set the World Afire is a great song. In My Darkest Hour, obviously, one of my favorites. Hook and Mouth, another. Liar, too. Liar's pretty underrated deep cut I don't hear people talk about. Let's find this. Where is it? Boom. Here we go. Also, cover art. Like, you had the debut, which the original's very so-so. It's not what Dave wanted. Then you get Peace Sells, which is the Repka classic album art. Then you get this. So they haven't really found their groove yet. Such a strange band at the beginning, for sure. All right, let's keep it moving. Number 12. Let's keep the Megadeth train going. Let's go with Countdown to Extinction from 1992. Man, this ranking's super hard because I maybe have put this a little lower. I might put it a little higher if I were to redo these notes. But anyway, this is kind of Megadeth's Black Album. You know, this is his answer to that. You know, following up Peace Sells, also Peace Sells, but following up Rust in Peace is an impossible task. Truly. So, like, what are you going to do with that? And then you follow up your other old band releasing the biggest album on the planet. so, like, I feel for the dude there. I honestly think Rust in Peace probably had more of an impact on Countdown and its sound than Black Album. I think it's just like we can't really top that, so let's go the other way. A lot of people say like Dave's just chasing Metallica and wanted that Black Album sound. I think this is a better album than Black Album. I've ranked it higher than that. And I think honestly Rust in Peace, where they went with that, they said, we can't really top this. Let's go the other direction. Countdown is Megadeth's first flirt with the mainstream, but it still retains many of those signature Megadeth hooks. This is also the album where you love or hate Dave for his, impressions and his voice on here and his character to his voice. I personally love his voice. I love his character, and I love the character that his voice provides. Like his voice is a hook within itself, very much in the vein of like a King Diamond. He's not a King Diamond singer, and that's not my point. I mean, like, it grabs you into the tunes when you hear Dave Mustaine sing, and you either love it or you hate it. Obviously, Sweating Bullets. You either love that song or you absolutely hate that song because of Dave on there. Marty Friedman, typically great self. David Ellefson, Nick Menza, also great. You get the classic Megadeth lineup. This album is full of good headbanging riffs, awesome solos. The production is also pretty nicely. It highlights everyone really well. The mix is great. It's definitely a dry mix, though, compared to the previous album that came out before this, but it's solid. Ultimately, I commend the band for not doing Rust in Peace 2. Again, just like I talked about Metallica when they dropped the Black Album. It's a solid album. Skin of My Teeth, Symphony of Destruction, obviously classic, Architecture of Aggression, Foreclosure of a Dream, Sweating Bullets, I like it, Nick's drumming is awesome on that song, and Dave's character work on that song really shine. This Was My Life, the title track, Ashes in Your Mouth. Again, if I were to redo this ranking here, I've been revisiting this because the reissue on vinyl came out. I might put that a little bit higher. All right, let's go with number 11. Let's go with Anthrax, Among the Living. So their last time on the list, the highest they made it was number 11. 1987, classic, essential Anthrax album to me. This is where everything came together. Everything I love about Anthrax is in this album. Great headbanging riffs, awesome Joey Belladonna vocals, amazing drum and bass, nerdy lyrics and concepts. They're at their best when they're having fun, and Among the Living is the epitome of fun. Great live band. Honestly, I love Anthrax live more than I love them on record. They're one of the funnest bands I've ever seen live, for sure. The 3 times I've seen them have been some of the funnest shows I have ever been to, and a lot of that had to do with them. Awesome live band, even still to this day. This is a great slab of party thrash, kind of before that even existed. The crossover influences shine heavy on the album, blending some SOD with the Anthrax formula. My main gripe, though, is the production, just like every other Anthrax album. It's thin, lacks any balls. It suffers from the same problems of all the other classic Anthrax albums. As far as production goes. But the album is definitely a must listen for sure. For any thrash fans, you have to listen to this. And it spawned countless clone bands. That's for damn sure. The title track, Caught in a Mosh, I Am the Law, NFL. That run right there is amazing. And then you get Indians later and ADI, Horror of It All. Just a standout album, nearly top to bottom. Great record. Comes in at number 11. Number 10. This band's first showing, so you kind of see where my loyalty lies. Slayer's Show No Mercy, their debut from 83. Finally make their appearance on the list. This great debut album. This album is not only the best debut for me of the big 4. No, I forgot I got one more higher than that. I could probably swap these in or out, honestly. Let's put this there. I could probably swap this one and the next one we're going to talk about, but it's fine. We'll keep going with it. I think it's the best thrash debut of all time. Really, if I'm going to be really honest with you. And just one of the best metal album debuts ever. It's a perfect mixture of Venom and early Iron Maiden, inspired with other new wave of British heavy metal and punk. Like, Slayer would go on to perfect their sound with the follow-up releases, but if you don't enjoy this album, I don't really know what to say. Like, I get it. Like, I started with Rain and Blood, but this album fucking slays. The production is thin, but the band sounds hungry, fierce, mean. Tom sounds absolutely great. We're already getting some signature Lombardo drumming, too, from the start. And this album has produced countless clones, but very few could ever even come close to it, let alone top it. The band sounds evil without being cheesy. I often say, like, the first 2 Merciful Fate albums are the most evil-sounding albums without really even trying, and this album is right there with it. The melody and riffs are all over this thing. You could kind of see that this band had something special right away. It's probably the only Slayer album, too, other than the covers LP, where their influences are being worn super heavily on their sleeves. Like, it sounds like an alternate Venom. Like, it really does. And it kind of stands out in the catalog because of that, because, like, starting with Hell Awaits, like, the band really formed their own sound and would basically perfect that and ride that for the rest of their career. Yeah, I really dig this album. It's a super important album. Standouts to me are really the entire thing, but Evil Has No Boundaries, The Antichrist, I am the Antichrist. That vocal is absolutely insane. Die by the Sword, Black Magic, and the title track. Absolutely essential thrash metal listening there from Slayer from 83. Now we're well into the top 10. Let's go with maybe a controversial pick, but Kill 'Em All coming in at number 9. Also 1983. It's the debut album from the biggest band ever. One of the biggest bands ever. It has a lot of heavy lifting to do, and it largely succeeds for me. My biggest gripe with Kill 'Em All is that the following two albums to me trounce it in every way. I understand why people love this album, especially if you were there at the time. Like, this is unlike anything you had ever heard before. But to me, I think they just become Metallica on Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets. That's, to me, this record, they're still pulling from a lot of their new wave of British heavy metal influences. More, just like Slayer, more so than all the other Metallica albums. The sound really was perfected on Ride the Lightning. To me. It's not a bad thing. I just think that this follow-up albums are the actual Metallica sound. To me, again, where they would do the influencing. Like, they were being influenced here, they would do the influencing on the follow albums, at least to my ears. Obviously, they influenced a ton of people with this album, but I hope you know what I mean. Maybe it's coming across well. I don't know. The albums stand out. The whole album still that with standout tracks. Obviously, good headbanging riffs and solos. To me, though, it just gets weighed down because, like, it's kind of overplayed to me. In a vacuum, it's one of the greatest albums ever written. Easily. And that spawned an entire genre. I just feel like that genre would get better as these bands would evolve and add more to it. And this is at its most pure, for sure. But I feel like as Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, Testament, Exodus, all the other bands, Death Angel, I think as all these other bands added more to the sound, it got better. That's all I got to say. The production is absolutely stellar, though. When you compare this to the rest of the Big Four debuts, like, it's absolutely stellar. It has that good new wave of British heavy metal feel. Obviously, Lars is such a huge fan of that stuff. It makes sense. Standouts are the entire thing, obviously. Everybody knows this album. Comes in at number 9, though. Right middle of the pack. I feel like that's fair for me. And my listening. Again, it's my list. Leave your list down below. All right, let's go with 1988. Slayer with South of Heaven at number 8. What do? Your 3 full lengths in a row have reached breakneck speed. They've upped the game every time. You got to go somewhere. The only thing to do is slow it down. You can't really go faster than Rain and Blood. And South of Heaven sees Slayer dabble with severe melody probably for the first time in their career. And I simply love classic Slayer because even when they slowed it down, the Slayer DNA is still absolutely there. And it sounds like Slayer. It's unmistakable. Nobody really sounds like Slayer, except them. Even when they were flirting with melody and groove, like, it still was Slayer. I see the argument, though, that they should have just made Rain and Blood Part 2. I understand that, but I completely disagree with that. South of Heaven is full of great riffs, memorable melodies, and great lyrics as well. A great Rick Rubin production. Honestly, some of his work with Slayer is some of my favorites he's ever done, which I'm not a huge Rick Rubin guy. But I think he brought something out in this band that without him, the history of Thrash and Slayer is a lot different, for sure. Awesome Dave Lombardo drumming. Awesome, great bass by Tom. Tom's vocals, too, are also on point. Amazing on this album. Again, I have the benefit of hindsight, but I am also very, very high on this album. And I'm fine with bands changing up their sound, too, and trying new things. I don't automatically recoil from that, especially if I like the band. I like them as musicians. I can always tend to find something I can grab onto. Standouts, almost everything. Title track, Silent Scream, Live Undead. Amazing Tom screams on Live Undead. Behind the Crooked Cross. What a great freaking tune Behind the Crooked Cross is. Mandatory Suicide. Spill the Blood. This album freaking slays. Pun intended. Let's keep the Slayer train rolling. Let's go with Seasons in the Abyss at number 7. Like, if Rain and Blood was kind of the sequel to Hell Awaits, like, this is the sequel to South of Heaven for me. And I think it kind of, not one-ups it in every way. I just like this album just a tiny bit more. Like, this would be, if South of Heaven is 7.9, this would be 7.5. Like, they're right there. I think they're perfect 1-2 punches. Seasons has one of the best Slayer openers of all time with War Ensemble. Sets the vibe perfectly for the album. And to me, this is the band kind of at their musical peak in terms of their chops and their tightness. I love the flow of this record from one track into the next. It's super fun. I wouldn't change the track order at all. It's stellar. Absolutely, like I said, it's a great, fun listen. Dead Skin Mask, too, does a lot of heavy lifting because it's my favorite Slayer tune of all time. I will never forget watching them play that song in Indio, California at the Big 4 show as the sunset set over Southern California. It was an absolutely stellar moment and something I will never forget as long as I live. The drumming, too, throughout is just bloody awesome, and Dave is always doing something that catches your ear. I love his drumming. The album's full of hooks, melody, great solos, massive riffs. This is a must listen, man. Standouts are everything. As we kind of get into these, this tier of albums, like really all these albums, the standouts are everything. But especially this tier. Next up, number 6, 1986, Peace Cells by Megadeth. Fill out that row. Peace Cells is kind of weirdly sandwiched between the debut, that sounds like the band is falling apart at the seams and really finding their footing, and the third album, which sounds like a band like ready to be done and just drug-fueled rage. So it's kind of a weird mixture that this is sandwiched in between those. It very easily tops everything, though, that's on the Megadeth debut. Killing Is My Business. And right away, dude, you understand that with Wake Up Dead. Like this is when you listen to that, you understand, okay, this is actually like a serious band and not just like a one-off thing. Because I could see in an alternate reality where Killing Is My Business was the only album they ever released because they're drugs that they were into and not having a major label and all that stuff. But then they get signed, obviously, and that was a huge deal and helped them out tremendously. It's kind of astounding too that this is the same exact lineup as the debut. It's just everything sounds better. Peace Cells to me is Megadeth proper. Like we're finally into Megadeth being the influencers, not the influencees. And again, very similar to these other bands, I would say. Some of the best riffs ever written. Great catchy lyrics with some nice meaning to them as well. Makes you think. Awesome rhythm section backing everything up. And then you get some great solos, obviously, throughout. The production is light years beyond the debut. The band is tighter. The artwork is obviously legendary and much, much better. Like, if this was the debut, it's one of the best debuts ever written in history of music. This also might be my favorite David Ellison album. Euthanasia, though, is a new, I have always loved that album, but after rediscovering after the reissues, I really appreciate his playing on that. But, the intro to the title track is absolutely iconic. And the album is full of some great bass work. The A side, too, is one of the best side ones ever. Side B is also pretty strong as well. The entire album is mandatory listen. Besides the terrible cover song. Again, Megadeth, they did have some good covers later in their career, but at this time, they just were not picking good songs at all. The album's mandatory listening, for sure. And yeah, it comes in at number 6. So we are in top 5 territory now. Things might get controversial here. Again, it's my opinion. Sound off in the comments below. If you want to talk about these albums, you're more than welcome to. It is the internet, after all. Everybody has an opinion. Let's go with this one. Master of Puppets. Might be controversial here. 1986. But yeah, we're really just down to personal preference here. Like when we get into these top 5. Like you could just reorder these anyway. I'd be fine. Master of Puppets to me just gets knocked down a little bit on the few pegs just because I kind of love Ride the Lightning so much. Like a lot. So it's obviously a classic. Deserves all the praise it receives. I love the production. I love it. I think Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets are the Metallica sound. That's the greatest sound they ever got. And it pains me that they were never really able to replicate it at all, ever in their career. But yeah, the production on it is amazing. It's full of so many iconic songs. It's kind of pointless to highlight any of them. The whole thing is mandatory. The band's at their tightest with Cliff at this point. Like, obviously, the tragedy of that, to know what could be. because they were reaching their kind of pinnacle, I think, as a band and their tightness. The songwriting is varied, but it sticks to the formula they had built upon. Best album cover, too, they ever had, I think. I will highlight Welcome Home. Probably my favorite track on that album. I've always adored that song. Again, Metallica are some of the best ballad writers, if you consider these ballads, in metal history. And just several absolutely iconic songs. Obviously, the title track being one of them. Master of Puppets is one of those way overhyped albums that absolutely delivers. And it earns every bit of praise that it gets. Obviously, this is the true cult Walmart battery brick vinyl from the only cultist record store in existence, Walmart. Get all your cult metal listenings there. Moving on. I might be serious there. I don't know. Leave a comment down below. I don't know. I might be serial there. Hell Awaits, number 4, 1985. Absolutely fucking love this record. Show No Mercy was Slayer paying tribute, I think, to a lot of bands that had brung them to the dance. Hell Awaits was Slayer. This is them carving their own path. The title track, still one of the heaviest, creepiest songs you will ever listen to. Great riffs, great drums, awesome tom vocals. This is when Slayer became fucking Slayer to me. The debut is awesome, but Hell Awaits is a step up in every regard. That's for sure. This is a pioneering album for any type of extreme metal band. And they separated themselves from the Venoms and the Celtic Frosts of the world with this. Again, this is when they became Slayer to me. This is when the sound became what they are known for. There isn't any filler on here. It's a great album top to bottom. It's a great bridge, too, from the rawness of the debut and the speed that would come on the follow-up album to this. The lyrics are also a big step up from the debut, where Slayer, again, managed to sound completely evil without being cheesy, which, again, is a difficult thing to do. The entire album is essential. You've heard it. If you haven't, you need to go listen to it right now. Stop listening to me ramble on. For anybody getting into thrash, black metal, death metal, any type of extreme metal, this is a record that you have to actually listen to and adore, because it's stellar from top to bottom. And so many metal genres and bands owe their existence to this album. It's absolutely stellar. Comes in at number 4. We're in the top 3. Again, you could basically take any of these 5, shuffle them up any way you want, and I would probably be fine. And if you ask me tomorrow, I might choose something different. But here we are. Number 3, Rain in Blood from 1986. I can't really say anything more, obviously, than this. That's already been said. It's one of the most influential metal albums in history. That isn't written by Black Sabbath. It's up there with Sabbath and Metallica albums for being so influential to so many bands. And a lot of bands owe their entire lives to this record. Rain in Blood is one of the best thrash productions ever done, and by Rick Rubin. And this album is perhaps the perfect confluence of things, because without Rubin, without Def Jam, it's super strange. And Slayer might not be what they are today. I really don't think they are. And it's a weird alternate reality to live in. The entire album is, of course, mandatory listening. In fact, listen to it twice back to back because it is so short, which I love about it. I love that it doesn't overstay its welcome. My favorite tracks, though, are Angel of Death, of course, Criminally Insane, awesome track, Postmortem, and then going into Raining Blood. That 1-2 punch is stellar. The greatest thing about Raining Blood is that because it is so short, like I said, it never wears out its welcome. Spin it and spin it again. You can listen to it countless times. I never grow tired of it. I got 2 more albums left. Which ones am I going to go with? I'm going to go with Ride the Lightning at number 2. Again, the true cult Walmart version. These were actually kind of expensive for a little bit because they would go out of print and then people would mark them up. So I got a lot of the Walmart versions, and I don't know what they're worth now, but they sound great. Ride the Lightning, though, is peak Metallica for me, and obviously I don't think Walmart is the true cult record store. I'm being sarcastic. I know a lot of the internet can't have sarcasm and humor anymore, but especially when you talk about the metals, but I'm being sarcastic here. Ride the Lightning, peak Metallica. It's one of my favorite albums ever written. The band is still super hungry after the debut. They are starting to forge their own path, but still wearing some of their influences. The lyrical concepts are getting better. James is starting to become more confident as a singer. The track order is absolutely perfect as well. It is the best Metallica production of all time to me. The album is full of classics. It's a must listen. Side 1 is absolutely ridiculous. Fight Fire with Fire, Ride the Lightning, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Fade to Black. It's absolutely stellar. Absolutely stellar side 1. Like, some bands would give their left nut to write a half of one of those songs, let alone 4 tracks back to back. Fade to Black too, one of my favorite tracks ever written. I love that song. I have a personal connection to that song. Loved when they played it live last time I saw them. Super good. And again, it cements them as some of the best ballad writers ever. Great songwriters, for sure. Even the lesser songs like Trapped Under Ice and Escape, I adore. It's a legendary album, man. Comes in at number 2. So I got one more left. Let's not bury the lead here. Rust in Peace from the mighty Megadeth. Released in 1990. It's the greatest thrash metal album of all time. Even outside of the big 4. It easily is to me. Culminated with this. Thrash culminated with this album right here. It never got better. And it was never the same again after it. Especially with death metal and black metal, they would kind of take over in the 90s as far as your more extreme genres. Like, this is the thrash peak to me. Rust in Peace has more hooks and riffs than many bands could manage to write in their entire career. The production is amazing. The album cover is obviously iconic. This is the best Megadeth lineup of all time, like I mentioned before, too. Everything came together here. Track order, runtime, all of it is on point. Rust in Peace manages to be insanely technical and listenable at the same time, which is a feat in itself. And also insanely catchy and progressive at the same time, which is super, super hard to do. You're super fast in parts and amazingly melodic in others, and some of the songs feature some of that within one song. It is the culmination to me of the entire genre at this point. It's a legendary record, man. Stands the test of time. It's mandatory listening. Like, anybody getting into thrash, I would start there. Rain and Blood, obviously. Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. And then just kind of fill in the gaps. Hell Awaits too. Like, these top 5 albums to me are just essential albums. But anyways, guys, that's it. If you like this ranking, am I insane? Did you understand my sarcasm in some of it? Did you not? Leave your comments down below. Tell me your favorite Big 4 band. Tell me your favorite Big 4 record. Or order all 20 of these. I don't care. I would love to read it. Love to interact in the comments. If you made it this far, hit the like button. I would appreciate it. You watch this entire thing. Just hit the like button. Subscribe for more fun rankings, which will piss people off. I love it. So anyways, guys, I'm spicy today. I'm feeling it. I love this. I love this shit. Anyways, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.